This week, we have a really incredible guest, Naveen Jain, the CEO of Viome. Viome is, at this point, one of the most well-developed and trusted platforms for advanced diagnostic testing, especially when it comes to the microbiome. As you'll hear from Naveen, the approach that they're taking, while it starts with the microbiome, I think is actually something that generalizes to how we think about biology from a more holistic systems biology perspective. And the idea of transcriptomics and mRNA is something that's really important for everyone to understand. And we're going to talk about why that's important today. An incredible entrepreneur, has built a number of highly successful businesses. I think some of you have already met him. If you haven't, you should. He's a very dynamic person, as you'll see. And I think today's conversation is going to be awesome. Well, that being said, Naveen, I always like to start by saying, anything you want to start by adding, any details on your background, anything about Viome that you want people to know. I think most people have some context, but I want to turn the floor over to you to start.
First of all, I would love to see if we can get everybody on the screen and just have a dialogue with them. This is a small enough group. Is it possible to put them all together?
I don't know if it's possible to do that. Let me see. I can be a panelist. Okay,
let's do that.
Today everyone's going to be a panelist.
Yeah, let's do that.
Everyone's going to be a panelist. So just go ahead and accept the invitation. I think everyone's going to have to rejoin. I would encourage people to turn on your cameras if you can.
Yeah, I would love to get to know everyone and have more than just a monologue, a dialogue with everyone, and understand exactly what are the kind of things you guys are doing. Where can I be most helpful to you? Let's not make it about me or what Viome does. I want to make it about you and what you need to do to be successful in the mission that you have. Because when you succeed, someone's life gets better. Every one of you is going to improve people's lives. If we can all come together, share our knowledge, share what has worked for us, and create a platform where we learn from and share with each other, I think humanity will be much better off working individually. So let's this be the beginning of our conversation. And Anand, I want to thank you for doing what you do to bring these people together, to really create a vision of how the longevity medicine can come together with science. And rather than trying to keep this longevity as a thing only for wealthy people or only for the people as a non-scientific stuff that's cutting edge. And when people say cutting edge means God knows it doesn't work, right? And that's from the thing and say, look, the science is there. And from the day you understand the mechanism and the science, before it becomes a mainstream, sometimes it takes 20 years and 25 years. And what we're doing is filling that gap of how do we bring the real science, real things that work today to the people today, rather than wait for 15, 20, 25 years before they see the benefit of it. Let me just give you just a 5-minute journey on why I started. Unlike every one of you, I don't come from a medicine background. I am not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I come from a technical background. 8 years ago, I found myself in a predicament where I was mining the moon for helium-3 for building fusion reactors. And we became one of the first companies to ever get the permission to land on the moon. We got President Obama to change the law that anything we bring back, we get to own. And we were one of the 6 companies to get $2.6 billion NASA contract to land on and mine the moon. When I was feeling at the top of the moon, I found my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And he was given 3 months to live. And unfortunately, that's all he got. It really got me thinking, what am I doing with my life? Here I'm thinking I want to colonize the moon and Mars, and I have no idea how our fellow humans and loved ones are actually suffering right on planet Earth. And why don't I dedicate the next 10, 20 years of my life to solving this problem? It wasn't the cancer that I believe really killed him. The fact is that as he was growing up, and it's not that he was very old, He was just about turning 8. I just assumed, of course, he has diabetes. He's going to be taking his metformin. Of course, he's got a high blood pressure. He's taking his medicine. Of course, he's got a plaque in the arteries. And of course, he's taking his statins, right? It is just how it happens. You get older and you take more medicine. If you're not using food as a medicine, when you get older, you get medicine as a food. That's really what happens. Either you're going to use medicine as a food when you get older, or you can be young and start to use food as a medicine and you never have to get the medicine later. There's nothing in the human biology, nothing in the human biochemistry that says that we have to become sick. There is nothing. It's at the end of the day, it's a biochemical body. Unlike infectious diseases, there is nothing in our body that actually causes us to become sick. Unlike infectious diseases, chronic diseases don't happen overnight. We don't wake up and say, honey, I think I was hanging out with the boys last night. I think I might have caught diabetes. You don't catch diabetes, you don't catch depression, you don't catch heart disease, you don't catch cancer, you don't catch Alzheimer. These are diseases that develop over 10, 15 years. And if it's taking them 10, 15 years to develop, there is a plenty of time for us to actually understand what is changing in the human biology at the onset and during the progression of these chronic diseases. If we can figure that out, we can diagnose this disease early, prevent them from happening, and try to reverse them. That is fundamentally what I set out to do. Everything in life starts with asking the right questions. The questions you ask are the problems you solve. It's the perspective. It is the question you ask the patient, and suddenly you say, aha. That aha moment comes from you asking a different question than what everyone else has been asking. And many of you who are in the functional medicine, integrated medicine, longevity medicine realize we want to know the lifestyle of a person rather than going to a typical MD who says, tell me the symptom and I'll write you the prescription. Give me the ill, I'll give you the pill. They don't understand why you have these issues, and the medicine may not be the right solution because that simply manages the symptom. You still have the underlying root cause of the disease. So you can give somebody a laxative when they have a constipation. Doesn't mean their constipation is gone. They still have constipation. They just relieve the symptom for one day. And that is something we set out to change. What I realized was there were two big problems. One thing that set us back almost a decade was our fascination with DNA. We realized that if we knew about our DNA, we'll be able to understand what is going on in the human body. When it comes to chronic diseases, your DNA doesn't change. So you do my DNA test, I gain 200 pounds. And you do my DNA test again, it's still the same. I have now diabetes, you can do my DNA test, it's still the same. I have depression, anxiety, heart disease, my DNA stays the same. And then I die. And even 100 years after I die, you'd look at my DNA, it's identical. DNA can't even tell you you're dead or alive, let alone are you healthier or sicker. And that was a number one problem. And we realized the thing that's constantly changing is not your DNA, but your RNA, not your genes, but your gene expression. And can you measure the gene expression? That will help solve the problem. Second problem, we all realize 99% of our genes don't come from our mom and dad. They come from these 100 trillion microbes in our mouth, gut, and all over us. These microbes are directly connected to our inflammatory. 70% of our immune system is in our gut lining, produce 90% of serotonin. What happens in the gut doesn't stay in the gut. Even though we humans are really stupid, thinking that our gut-brain axis, we call that a vagus nerve, and thinking what happens in Vegas is going to stay in Vegas, what happens in the gut goes everywhere. Your brain gets impacted by what's happening in your gut. Chronic diseases are impacted. If you were to look at every disease from Parkinson's to Alzheimer to cancer, everything is connected to how microbiome are interacting with your immune system. The problem is that, like DNA, every microbiome testing company simply tells you what organisms are there. They do the same DNA testing called metagenomics. They tell you what organisms are in your gut and completely miss out on the RNA viruses. The same organism can do something good in one environment, and the same organism can actually become toxic and do something completely toxic in other environment. Right? And that is the key. It's not the organism, it is what they do that matters. right? So Akkermansia can be good for you by producing butyrate, or Akkermansia can actually be toxic and cause MS, right? Same supplement can be good for you, or the same supplement can harm you depending on what is going on. You hear people saying in longevity, everyone should take NAD. As we start to get old, NAD starts to reduce. Everyone should do it. Guess what? NAD also causes the progression of cancer. NAD also increases cellular senescence. So if you already have a high cellular senescence, the last thing you want to give this person is an NAD, right? So point is, anytime you hear everyone should take this, unless your name is everyone, just don't do it. Right? There is no universal healthy food. There is no universal healthy supplement. It depends on each individual unique biology. So that's my monologue, and I'm happy to tell you what we do at Viome. So at Viome, we decided that we're going to fundamentally change the paradigm. We are not going to look at your genes, we're going to look at your RNA and gene expression. It took us very long time to find the technology, and technology came out of Los Alamos National Lab, where they spent 10 years, $2 billion developing it for biodefense. We got the exclusive perpetual license, and we not only look at mRNA, we also look at all the non-coding RNA. We look at every single RNA, every single transcript, whether it is protein coding, whether it's a non-protein coding, whether it is anything. We look at every RNA. That means when we're looking at your saliva, we are looking at not just the oral microbial transcript, we are looking at all the human transcript. That means all the immune system, all of your gum lining. When we look at the stool RNA, we're looking at all the epithelial cells shedding, all the gut microbial RNA. We also do the finger prick blood. We're looking at your mitochondria RNA. We're looking at all of your immunes, all of your cytokines. We're looking at every single transcript in the blood. 100 million biomarkers, not 100 biomarkers, 100 million biomarkers. We analyze all of that together using AI, and then we can tell you everything that's happening in your body, from your biological age to your cognitive health, to your heart health, oral health, gut health, immune health, or heart health. And if you are really like a functional medicine doctor, I'll give you your uric acid production, to your LPS production, to your sulfide production, to your urametoxin production, to your homocysteine pathway. You name it, we got it. And then we can tell you, don't eat avocado right now because your uric acid production is too high. Don't eat spinach or almonds because your oxalates are not being degraded. Don't eat broccoli or cabbage because your sulfide production is too high. Or take these supplements, but don't take this supplement. You can take red meat if you want, because choline and carnitine in your red meat is not being converted by your microbiome into TMA, and your liver is not producing enough FMO3 enzyme that is converting them into TMAO, and your oral microbiome is not producing gingerpain that causes FMO3 production. And by the way, don't take vitamin B2 with that. Right? And we can be very specific what to do. And once we are done, we can actually tell you, you need 22 milligram of lycopene every day, 79 milligram of amylase every day, 33 milligram of elderberry every day. And we custom formulate each person every month. So these are my supplements. They were made for me. So every month I get them made just for me. These are my personalized probiotics and prebiotics. It's your Viome prescription, if you can see it, gut formula. These are my oral lozenges made for me. And we even go as far as building the personalized toothpaste for morning and evening for each individual. And then we did the double-blinded placebo-controlled studies to show in 90 days, if you follow the personalized nutrition, people who are pre-diabetic, their HbA1c came down by 0.42 and they became healthy. People who had IBS-C, 64% of the people became healthy compared to 10% on placebo. People who had depression and anxiety, moderate to high, 62% of the people became healthy compared to 28% on placebo. Right. All of that simply using food as a medicine. With that, I've taken 15 minutes of your time in a monologue, and I'm going to let you ask me questions about any subject, not just about Viome, what you're doing, what's happening in the longevity space, what's happening in the testing space, what's happening in anything you want to know, because that's the industry I know a lot about. Plus, unlike most people, since they are working, they don't have time. I read at least 4 to 5 books every month. I probably speak at least 7, 8 conferences. I have a fairly good idea about what everyone else is doing and what's going on. I'm all yours.
Awesome.
Anand?
Thanks so much, Naveen. I certainly have questions on my side, but I always like to open it up for everyone else. So if anyone here has a burning question or anything that they
But
have,
Julie
Naveen,
and Mariana turn the camera on if they can. I like to see everyone.
Julie's my
That's
assistant.
fine.
If you, yeah, Julie, go
Mariana
ahead.
and Mariana, please.
She's driving.
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
So, first question, Anant, you want to get started, or someone else who is brave enough to ask question?
So I think this group is more educated than the average group in terms of systems biology, medicine. We
Nice.
actually had somebody from another company, Vitract, a shotgun sequencing metagenome-based
Yeah,
company. One thing that all of us are trying to navigate as we look at
yeah,
microbiome testing is like, which one
yeah.
should we pick? There's so many different options. They actually said their CSO thought that what you guys were working on was very interesting. His thought was RNA is not stable. It's very dynamic. How can we rely on the picture we're getting? So I guess like I would ask you, number one, what would
Perfect.
you say to that? And then also, how would you recommend us as clinicians and entrepreneurs look at this messy world of microbiome testing? What's the framework we should use?
So there are 2 points to stability. One is, can you measure RNA accurately? Because RNA gets cleaved very quickly. And how do you ship it and stabilize it? We use a preserver right at the time of collection. There is a preserver inside the tube that removes all of the enzymes. It removes the RNAs, all the protease. As soon as you put in the preserver and you shake it up, it lyses open all the cells, and once lysis is open, it kills all of the enzymes that will degrade the RNA. And we have published the paper. And if you go to viome.com/publications, you can see for every single sample, we can show you that for 30 days, even in the heat, the RNA is completely stable. The second part of the question really is, hey, doesn't RNA changes every time based on the food I ate last night? Another paper that we published showed for the 6 months, the RNA stays very stable and it does not change depending on what food you ate. And we literally collected the RNA for the people for every week for the 6 months, and we showed that there is no change in RNA as they are going along. But in 6 months, there is a significant change in RNA. And the only time it changes very significantly without 6 months is when you take antibiotics or you end up really, really getting sick or have some other pathogen that completely changes that. So if there is simply changing a diet, it does not change the RNA. And one thing we do in terms of as a clinician is we actually have a clinical product. So what we are known for is a consumer product, but we have a clinical product called Precision Health Professional, where we do the all 3 testing. We do your saliva, finger prick blood, and a touch of your stool. And then we give you the complete picture of what we see and build the AI model for 30 most common diseases. We can tell you the risk of developing high blood pressure or heart disease or high cholesterol. Is it going up, going down, or where it is? And what can you do right now about it? So not only we give you the underlying pathways of why we believe, and for everything we tell you, we give you the primary science paper we use for it. So everything we show you, we say, here is what we found. Here is what's happening. And by the way, here is a science paper for it. So if we say, look, this person has a constipation, we will tell you, is the constipation being caused by high methane gas that slows down the motility of the gut, low sulfide gas, low butyric acid, low serotonin, or high bile acid? All of these are reasons that could be causing constipation. Once you know the underlying reason what is causing constipation, both the medicine and the foods will completely, and the supplements will change, because now you know the underlying reason what is causing that constipation, not because this person has constipation. Does that make sense to you guys? And Banwar, who is head of my AI, or Dr. Charwat, who runs my clinical division, she'll be happy to have you guys be part of that clinical product. That we have now several hundred clinicians from concierge medicine to longevity medicine, all using the Precision Health Pro as a part of their protocol.
So that's super interesting. And I think for me, and I know you and I have spoken about this,
Yeah.
Naveen, but I'll just say it for the group. I think one of the things that's most interesting to me is how transcriptomics can
Yes.
tell us about network function, right? I think the holy grail of how we will get to the bottom of understanding how we can manipulate our biology, which I think is ultimately the goal, or preserve its resilience, is by understanding how these cellular networks are performing. Certainly, the
Yes.
DNA is one part, but as you mentioned, it's not dynamic. It is not telling us what's actually happening. It's telling us about the source code, but it's not telling us about what programs are actually running. I think in that sense, mRNA is super interesting and transcriptomics are super interesting. And you've provided a useful perspective on the question of how representative is this picture we're getting of how the network is functioning. Is it just a random snapshot, or is it
No,
a somewhat representative one?
the interesting thing is, many of you can look at the gut microbiome. And that doesn't really, that it's like looking at an elephant and just touching the trunk and say, I think I know exactly what this animal looks like. Or just touching the tail and saying, I know what this animal looks like. What really needs to happen is you have to get a complete picture. The top of the digestive tube, you need to look at your oral microbial activity. You have to look at the thing when you are actually, what is going on from the top of the digestive tube. So when you chew your food, it is signaling to tell the body what is coming down. And that is, remember, the body, when it tastes the oral microbial activity, when it tastes something sweet, it tells the pancreas to start releasing insulin. If you take artificial sweetener, it tells the pancreas to release insulin, and there is no glucose to bind to. Eventually, you become insulin resistant by taking a lot of these artificial sweeteners. There is research now showing that artificial sweetener causes insulin resistance. And that is really tricky. So what we do is we're looking at all of your oral microbial activity, and we swallow 1.5 liters of saliva every day. And now all of that is impacting your gut microbiome, especially the people who take anti-acid drugs like Nexium and all kinds of anti-acid. All of these oral microbiome is no longer being killed in the stomach, and now they're settling down. Fusobacterium nucleatum. That's the number one reason, by the way, we saw. It's not the activity of Fusobacterium nucleatum. So Fusobacterium nucleatum and P. gingivalis in itself are not bad. In fact, 84% of the people have P. gingivalis in their mouth. Only 16% will ever develop periodontitis, only when P. gingivalis is expressing ginger pain. Fusobacterium nucleatum is really prevalent in most people's gut. Only time when it is expressing the FAP2 and FAD transcript, that is when it becomes actually pathogenic, and it causes IBS, leading to IBD, leading to colorectal cancer.
Got it. Awesome. So I guess the question I was going to have, there was actually one other physician here, Uma. Can we get information from your test about which specific points in the network are defective? And what I'm getting at here is, if we know it's this pathway or this node in the network that is being disrupted, of course, your platform is giving us recommendations about different supplements. But if we know also what
Absolutely.
what
So we show
node is
you everything.
disrupted, we can also pull from our armamentarium of other
100%.
interventions, right?
So we show you every single pathway connection. We show you that, hey, this particular pathway, uramic toxin production, is actually the one that is problematic, or it's a cellular senescence pathway that's actually problematic, or it is really the methane gas that's a problematic. And we literally list you all the different pathways that are problematic that you should be paying attention to. And you guys can find your own intervention. So one of the interesting things in our clinical product, Anand did not mention, is that it's completely modular. We provide the information to the clinician, and clinician can decide, hey, I don't want my patient to see these recommendations because I want to give them a completely different recommendation. And that's entirely up to you. So our job is to give you all you need. You can say, look, I don't need to know what you're telling me, and just remove that. You won't see it anymore.
Very interesting. And so let me actually get to Uma's question here.
Yeah.
So Dr. Uma is a longevity physician practicing in the UAE, currently
Yeah.
building a venture in India. She's been following Viome's work closely. Is Viome available globally? If not, what's the best way to ensure reliability when choosing microbiome testing platforms in other geographies?
And the answer is yes and no. We didn't think there was a big enough market, but we're going to make it available globally. We currently sell them in about 20 countries. Our patients come from about 106 countries, so people find a way to get them. Whether we like it or not, people buy them from all over the world. A lot of people use the US forwarding address, and they get them in their country, wherever they are. Uma, you want to be part of our things, we'll make sure that you get the test for yourself and for your patients, and we'll make it happen for you. Anand, you're muted.
Uma, if you want to send me an email, I can connect you with Naveen and
Yeah,
his team. And I believe that invitation stands for everyone
everyone.
listening here. If you're interested in getting connected to this new platform and the testing suite that Naveen is building at Viome, I'm happy to facilitate that for you guys. Kasim, do you want to just go ahead and ask the question yourself?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. So I was just wanting, so I'm just in the process of co-founding a men's health clinic online in the UK. I'm based out of Scotland. Just curious if there are any men's health focused clinics using Viome and how they're maybe angling the use of Viome in the men's health space, especially if they're going beyond just hormones into longevity and health span. And the second question was, are all of your tests available in the UK? And are there any tests that are only available through practitioners? Just because I find that when there's something about testing that's only available through practitioners that adds a certain degree of authority. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts because I think a lot of Viome is direct to consumer, isn't it?
Yes. So yes, you can buy a direct-to-consumer product in UK, and a Precision Health Pro product cannot be bought by a consumer. That's only available to a physician. Precision Health Pro product has many things. Number one, it has 3x more deeper sequencing. That means every single thing is 3x depth. Plus, the report that you get out of the clinical product is a clinical report that may walk you through every single disease risk, and we can do that with a consumer product, right? So it's a two separate product. Our consumer product is available in UK, and our Precision Health product is also available in UK. In fact, there are half a dozen or so clinics that are currently in UK that are using it.
Awesome. Thank you.
To answer your second question, we don't have anything specific on men's health. So despite all the things we do, the hormones is not something it's very easy to actually get them from your transcripts. We don't do any hormones tests today. We are building a whole proteomics platform that is going to be extremely interesting. We just finished it, and we're going to be launching it soon. That means we can do all of the IgG and IgE test for literally 10 cents each. So we built the whole platform by putting 100 different foods antibodies, and we can look at the antibodies for IgE, IgG, or even CRP, any protein. We bind to it, and we can literally for 10 cents do a CRP. So we can do HSCRP for 10 cents. We are going to be launching a platform that's going to have 100 IgE foods, 100 IgG, CRP, TNF alpha, Hashimoto things. We literally going to continue to add these protein markers, and they're going to be so cheap. If you do 100 IgE food test today, Everdeval is $2.99, and we're going to probably retail the damn thing for $50, and just to drive people nuts.
I'm curious, you have access to a lot of data at this point about people's microbiome and their overall health. Are there any interesting insights that have come out, the data that you have access to, where a particular supplement or a particular intervention seems to have this really unexpected signal that people don't know about?
Yes, it's very interesting. We have now done 1.5 million tests. So think about 1.5 million tests, 150 quadrillion biological data point. And we know everything about every person, every drug they're taking, every symptom they have, every disease they are diagnosed with, all 300 clinically validated questionnaire. And it's really, really interesting. We saw that people, for example, who have IBS-C, it turns out it's a GABA production, right? They have low GABA production. And when there's a high GABA production, they have IBS-D. We are starting to see specifically what is causing what disease. And we have not just simple, it is 2 or 3x exponential change when we see in these pathway analysis, right? And I think, as I said, I can have next time Dr. Banwal walk you through these things for each of these things we have developed, what we are finding. Even on aging, what's really interesting is what we find is it's really that most of the things are inflammatory biomarkers. This is IL-8. IL-8 was one of those things that really shows up in almost every single disease as an inflammatory marker. So by the way, other thing is based on all these markers, Anant, we have now launched a early stage 1 cancer test. So you can now, unlike Grail and stuff, which are very good at 3 and 4, their average sensitivity for stage 1 cancer is, we have a test for oral cancer and throat cancer for 95% specificity, 90% sensitivity. We are launching for the first time in the human history a test for stage 1 pancreatic cancer. 94% specificity, 84% sensitivity for stage 1 pancreatic cancer. Right.
And this is based on analysis of the microbiome.
They've done the analysis of all different tests, look at different biomarkers. For oral cancer, there are about 74 biomarkers. Of them, 37 were human immune system markers in the saliva, and rest were microbial transcripts in the saliva that were indicator of stage 1 oral cancer, stage 1 throat cancer. And the pancreatic cancer, we did not find signal in the saliva, but we found the signal in the blood. And there were certain proteases that we found for stage 1 pancreatic cancer. Right. Same thing we've done for IBD now. So we can do a very early stage Crohn or colitis and differentiate from IBS. We are now validating our test for colon polyps, and Scripps is validating our test. So what we do is we look at our data to say, hey, is there a strong enough signal? And then we go to the clinician to say, can you now give us unseen data? We run our model and then you tell us how many we got right or wrong.
Very interesting. So I hope you guys can appreciate now. I mean, I think I had the assumption, like maybe a lot of you, like when I first heard about Viome, I thought, oh, this is just another microbiome test. But what this is a next generation diagnostic platform, right? They're looking at networks in a way that I think is very interesting. I'm excited. Can you send along to me and I can distribute to the group some screenshots or information about this Precision Health Pro?
So what I would do would be, honestly, just either send me an email directly or send it to Anant and he can forward it to me, Naveen@viome.com, or just work with Anant and he can send it to me. Anyone who is interested, we could take all of your group. What I could do is have Dr. Banwar, Dr. Charwat, and Dr. Antoine walk you through the whole clinical report and say, look, this is what it looks like. This is how you use it. This is how others are using it. You can also upload your stuff and we integrate it into our AI. So like Atria, they give us their blood biomarkers, their interpretation of MRI, VO2 max, and we integrate everything into the AI and say, all right, based on everything we now see, here is what it is.
Rena just asked a question. So the pancreatic cancer test you just mentioned, where does it stand with respect to FDA approval, or what kind of route are you looking at for that?
All of the tests on oral cancer, throat cancer, we received the FDA breakthrough device designation. Since we are a science company, we run our own CLIA lab. I don't need FDA approval to sell my test. So I sell them as LDTs. FDA actually admitted, and they say that they have no jurisdiction over LDT. So if you are running a CLIA certified lab and you have validated the test, you can sell that test. So we sell them as an LDT right now.
Yeah, and I think there might be a session that we did in the past about LDTs, and I would encourage you guys to check out that session. If not, I'll post a brief primer about it.
Very recent law, because FDA has admitted that they have no jurisdiction. It is under CMS, and we are a CMS CLIA certified lab. Everything we do is completely validated. Every single batch of tests we do is validated under CLIA.
Yep, and there was a recent Supreme Court decision that came down, I think it was in April, that has clarified a lot of this. So I think that's very helpful. And I think to Rena's, I think what she's getting at is like the data, the sample size. I think all of that is coming, right?
No, it's actually no. Oral cancer, throat cancer is published. All the data is published in Oral Oncology Journal and also in the Nature Publication Journal. So NPJ and also on oral oncology, it was done based on, I think, 250 positive samples and 10,000 negative samples.
Got it. Awesome. Let me just ask kind of maybe a more pop culture type question. I think a lot of people here might relate to it. And if you can send the result, if you don't mind having your team send the links to the publications, I think the team here would appreciate it.
The publications are all right here. I'm going to put them there. There's a link here so you can all look at that. Chat. There you go. Chat. It's on viome.com/publications. Click on the link and you can see all the publications. There are probably 20 or 30 that are coming in as we are publishing them. We are very, very good at publishing them. And there are probably at least, I know of 10 plus that are currently being reviewed by peer-reviewed journals.
Awesome. Well, let me...
Somebody is asking me, Rena, how is it different from Jonah? Jonah does a metagenomic test. And the problem with them is the same thing like any other microbiome test. They have no sample. The total they have done is so far 2,000 tests. We have done 1.5 million tests. And we are the only test that looks at your RNA, your complete metatranscriptomics, not metagenomics. And that's the biggest difference.
Awesome.
They charge $485 for the gut test. All three of our tests, your saliva test, the blood test, and stool test, all three together, we sell it for $499 for a clinical product.
Awesome.
With 3x, you can see.
Great question, Rena. Let me just ask my pop culture question. A lot of us have heard from Andrew Huberman and some others about the microbiome. He bases this off his own interpretation of the research, and I think he has some buddy at Stanford who studies the microbiome. His take is like all you've got to do is eat low sugar fermented foods, and that's really all it comes down to. What's your take on that? Is there anything in your data set or in your experience that you would, maybe confirm that? Would you add to that? Would you refute it? How would you respond to that?
So it's very simple. We have the data, if you send me the email, that actually we analyzed the group. It turns out 45% of the people are harmed by eating avocado because they have high uric acid production. Almost 50% of the people are harmed by eating spinach or almonds, the food, or kale, that are very high in oxalates. Right. So if you look at the broccoli and cabbage and Brussels sprout, very high sulfide crucifix vegetables, they are harmed. Almost 37% of the people have a very hard time with them because of high sulfide production, right? There is no such thing as universal healthy food. However, there are universally unhealthy food, right? So there is no universal healthy food. Unhealthy foods, that's very simple. Don't eat things that are excessive in sugar, right? So don't add sugar. But I don't think sugar really is the enemy here. People just make it everything like an enemy. It's not, because human brain needs glucose. So in some sense, the eating natural sugars, so fruits, I think it's really good to be eating fruits. You should be avoiding them. They do have a fiber, they do have the fat, they do have the sugar, and these are all good to be eating together. What I'm saying is that fermented foods are good for some people and not so good for other people, because if you have a SIBO, you shouldn't be eating a lot of fermented food at that point, right? So I really think this idea of people are somehow make the human biology so simple that everyone should just do that, and I think magic will happen. If that was really true, we won't have any need for doctors. And the fact is, there's no two human beings are same. And anything that we look for average, and anybody who is smart enough to know, the average in the bell curve, there's not a single person who falls in the average. People are on both sides of average, but there's nobody who is average.
Yeah. No, I love that. And yeah, I think we are at this moment, and I think it's to be expected, right? Like as this field has gained popularity, the current meta, so to speak, is one in which we're trying to make things simple and understandable. And honestly, I think Huberman deserves a lot of credit for how he communicates, but I do wonder about
But honestly, the problem with Huberman is he is so driven by money. It's literally like AG1. He will tell you, just take AG1 and life will be simple, because they pay him $2-3 million a year, right? And he will just, so it's now Function paid him $2 million, and now he talks about Function. All of these guys prostitute themselves, they lose objectivity.
Yeah, just as an example of how there's no such thing as for everyone, right? A lot of people, this is just my experience, right? Like a lot of people have talked about like, oh, blue light is really terrible before nighttime, and you should buy these red light glasses. I bought them from Huberman's company. I swear to you, my sleep is worse. For 2 weeks wearing these things, my sleep is worse. So I stopped wearing them.
Despite all the advice people give me, I watch TV until I go to sleep. My last thing I do is look at my phone, finalize all my email and everything, and I literally hit the flow.
I'm the same way. Actually,
within the
it helps. I don't know.
I get hour and a half to hour and 45 minutes of REM sleep, and I get hour and 15 to hour and 30 minutes of deep sleep, and I sleep for 6.5 hours. I feel like a charming prince when I wake up in the morning.
I think it just illustrates the point that like there is no such thing as like best thing for everyone, or like this one thing is categorically bad or good. And it's like, I don't know. It's interesting.
Measure, but the good thing is measure. I can tell you there are certain things that are just bad for everyone. I can very confidently tell you that things that are bad for you is drinking alcohol. Drinking alcohol before in the night before sleeping, I can guarantee you, and no one can tell you that their REM sleep and deep sleep is not affected. It just F's up your sleep. Eating late in the night, I don't eat 3 hours before I sleep. When your digestive system is active and you have the circadian rhythm of your microbiome, you just can't get a good sleep. I can tell you the things that are bad for everyone, but I just can't tell you the things that are good for everyone.
Awesome. Well, very well said. Vamsi asked a question with such a large data set, including questionnaires. Actually, Vamsi, if you want, you can go ahead and ask the question.
Just Vamsi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Hi, Naveen. So my question was this, right? With access to such large amounts of data, I'm based in India right now, and many of these cutting edge technology and testing and all that might not be democratized as soon as we hope. So I'm looking at signals or some inferences from such large data sets. I know it's all contextual. You might not have data related to India per se, but I'm just saying, even for the US. So are you able to, distill certain data points which, point to one particular lifestyle or habit, for example? Does blue light lead to pancreatic cancer from your data?
So we have
Right?
lots and lots of data. To be honest with you, tons of stuff that we can talk about. I can walk you through when we do the next session, Anant, with Dr. Banwar. We have so much data. I tell you, the thing that I found very interesting was my mother used to always say, don't stress, it'll cause you cancer. Right? And it's like, Mom, how can that be? We found that cortisol increases the local testosterone that produces the lesion in the gut lining. And it's like, God damn it, my mom was right again, right? It is just the basic things that you knew inherently. And now we are finding the scientific reason for what is going on. So I was saying that there are lots of information that we find that are common amongst people. So in the longevity side, I was absolutely convinced that vegan diet will turn out to be the best diet. We found that the keto diet was the worst diet for human longevity. It completely fucks up your human body. When you're on a keto diet for a long time, it completely destroys your body, followed by paleo diet and stuff. And I really honestly thought the vegan diet was going to be the best diet. It turns out the best diet actually is vegetarian. So a little bit of the animal product actually helps you live better, which surprised me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I will say on the keto diet, and like full disclosure, I am a shareholder of Virta Health, which is probably the largest keto company in the world. I actually agree with you in the sense that, we
should pulse it, but you should never go on a long
having people on it for extended periods of time without having reintroduction of like we discovered this like later on, like we have to, like once we reverse their diabetes, keto is awesome at that. You can get people's A1C down 1, 2, even 3 points in a matter of 90 days consistently. But after that, you do have to reintroduce carbs in a way that is measured but deliberate.
A1C. I don't have to do anything. You just get the people to eat fat. If you just tell them to eat, if you just tell them to eat ghee,
that's what we were doing.
Just tell them to drink ghee and butter all day, all night. They will die from a heart attack, but they will never die from diabetes.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this point about the remodeling of the microbiome is something that we saw it play out. We have a huge sample size, right? And I think that it's all about balance and that sort of thing. I think it's very, very interesting. All
right. Cool. Anything else, bro? Anything else? Anybody? Any question?
This was a lot of fun. Thank you. Naveen is so much fun to talk to and work with. Any other questions from the group? Okay, well.
How are you working with Atria?
How? When you say how, I don't know mean by how.
Maybe I missed it, but
so basically the Atria
test?
Yeah, they're using Viome for all their patients.
Got it.
So Atria using a Sydenham. So Sydenham have 2 clinics in Houston. They just opened up one in Beverly Hills. So Sydenham is using it. They're using it. Lyle Wellness is using it. And, a whole bunch of other clinics are using it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah. Lifespan MD is starting now.
I see. Okay.
Awesome. Naveen, such a pleasure to have you on this morning. If you don't mind sending that information about the Precision Health.
Please send me an email and I'll make sure that you get all the information. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.